Yo guys, I'm back to talk about the new chapter of One Punch Man, that being chapter 113, and there's a lot to talk about. Of course, another banger. I mean, there's always so much that happens in these One Punch Man chapters, so I'm very excited to be talking about this. So just to quickly summarize in the previous chapter, you should all know what happened, since if you don't, why are you watching this video? Anyway, what happened was Saitama and Garou clashed, as you all know. Blast did manage to teleport a lot of his power away, using his hyperspace portals to this distant galaxy far away, and the scale of his explosion was so massive. I think it's probably the greatest on-panel feat that we've seen in One Punch Man so far, and they blew a portion of the universe away, or at least thousands of stars were destroyed. Even possibly galaxies, since you can see galaxies in the background, but that's more to do with speculation. So in that chapter they continued to fight, but it seems like Saitama had that edge over Garou, and was slightly better even though Garou could use hyperspace portals. Saitama even did this serious table flip and shattered one of Jupiter's moons. Pretty impressive, but this chapter is even better. So talking about the new chapter, chapter 113. The chapter begins with him punching, and Saitama seems to be one step ahead of him as he manages to avoid all of Garou's attacks and outlands him too, even using his hyperspace portals to outland Garou and putting him on the back foot. Although Garou is still hanging in there, albeit barely, staying on his feet. Well, that is until he's karate chopped on his back, which drops into the ground unironically. This is when Saitama begins mocking Garou and questioning why he's losing if he can copy Saitama's full power. And that is true, Garou is confused as well. He can't figure out why he's losing despite knowing that he's equal to Saitama, at least in power. And that's when it finally ticks. Garou realizes he's not losing because Saitama is invincible and he's weaker than him technically. But it's because Saitama is growing in power constantly and Garou's technically lagging behind him, copying the One Punch Man's growing power. Garou is afraid that Saitama is growing in power too quickly for him to keep up, and the gap's only getting wider to the point that he might die. According to the audiobooks, Saitama is capable of beating himself on a previous day with only one punch, meaning he gets a one-shot level stronger with each passing day. This finally proves that Saitama isn't limitless, but he has limitless potential. Saitama is exponentially growing in power in this very fight because of his emotions surging apparently. In desperation, he manages to punch Saitama so hard that his clothes go flying off. And this is it, nobody is left to measure the strength of a One Punch Man. As his power begins to reach a new realm, Garou is about to be left in the dust. This is when Saitama literally just sneezes, well technically it's a serious sneeze, lol. And this causes the moon that they're fighting on to absolutely collapse. More impressively, the concussive force produced shreds half of Jupiter to his core, or Saitama literally just created a black hole. I can't say which it is, it's hard to say, but all I'm gonna say is RIP Jupiter. Anyway, Garou is petrified at Saitama's monstrous power and questions whether he's even human. And this is when Saitama drops one of the coldest responses that I've ever heard. He says that he's a being who shouldn't be allowed to roam the earth freely. Garou then replies, "Me too," and in desperation grabs Saitama and comes up with the idea of teleporting him into the sun, like this is some sort of Dragon Ball movie. Garou punches him into the sun, and hyperspace jumps back near to earth, saying adios. He then starts celebrating like he's won, you know, he's cheering, all of that. But you guys know what's about to happen, you know the score. The series is called One Punch Man. So yeah, Saitama is behind him. He explains that he farted his way back from the sun and followed Garou through his hyperspace portal. And yes, you heard me right, he farted his way right back to him. And this is when Saitama punches him back to earth, exactly where they started, and cracks Garou's armor, then stops. As Garou's lying on the ground, he asks Saitama why he's not killing him. Saitama admits maybe he doesn't have the best qualities of being a hero, but he's still a hero at the end of the day. He promised that kid that he saved, Tario, that he wouldn't kill Garou, since you know Garou was talking to this kid and was the only guy close enough to be his friend, I guess. Garou sees his kid on the floor dead because of the radiation that he caused, so gets up and rushes over to him. It's what we thought, but instead we see Garou rush in the opposite direction, jokingly, and start crying. He then trips up, falling face flat on the ground, admitting that he created this dark future that the kid was talking about. Saitama is confused at Garou's sudden change in personality. Garou admits now his spirit is crushed and his dreams of becoming this absolute evil are now impossible. He was defeated by a guy who doesn't even claim to be a real hero, and he's kind of embarrassing. It's over. And Garou wanted everybody to know true evil, but he never intended to kill that kid that he used to talk to. Saitama says he thought that that kid that he used to talk to was pretty much somebody who was alive to be psychological support for Garou. Garou gets angry and questions what he knows about that. That's when Saitama pulls out Genos' core. Garou regrets his actions, so asks Saitama to help him out to help him resolve all of this. We're seeing some development for Garou, which is pretty cool, but it won't matter very soon as you'll find out. Saitama agrees and hears him out. So Garou asks him to copy and improve his secret move. It must have been one of the moves that Bang taught him, because he talks about not being ever able to fully master it, as if he knew about it before. Saitama doesn't really care about Garou, but Garou tells him to copy, and Saitama agrees because he's got nothing to lose now. He begins copying, and what we see is the radiation produced by Garou allows him to manipulate his own particles and antiparticles, and forces them to move in reverse. And something begins to happen. As Garou's dying, he tells Saitama to prevent this ominous future, or this dark future, so he's sent back in time. A time before Garou used his radiation to kill everybody. So they manage to reverse time and Saitama is sent back to before Genos died as well. In fact, Garou just achieved his cosmic form, and so Saitama instantly rushes over to him to punch him, and cracks his armor with one punch. This whole event caused this weird acausality, so all the events from the future that would happen are now wiped out as if they never happened in the first place. Instead, Saitama beat Garou with just one punch. Garou then begins to lose his power, and Saitama's body merges with his previous self. I'm not sure why this is happening, but I assume this is how time functions within the One Punch Man world. Saitama's kinda confused, and he doesn't remember what just happened, and both his bodies just merged. He doesn't remember the future events, but he realizes that he's got Genos' core in his hand. But even more weirdly, I'm gonna assume his you-know-what is just dangling. And that'd explain why there's like a black bar covering it, or whatever. This is when Genos flies over and hits Saitama in the balls. And that's pretty much the end of the chapter. Now, what did I think about the chapter? It was a pretty good chapter overall. I think a lot happened. There were a lot of cool elements I added. Me personally, I'm a fan of the time travel stuff, so I really enjoyed that. I did like their approach to time travel. I wasn't expecting it. I thought we'd get a really insane physical feat within this chapter, like the destruction of a universe or something. But now I think about it, there had to be some sort of reversal, since everybody was pretty much dead, and they can't be dead. We knew that Genos had to come back to life, we knew everybody who died had to come back to life, and they used time travel to do it. So I guess I should have seen that coming. And I assume now that Garou is going to be fine, and he's going to be reverted back into his normal human form. He'll still be strong, but nowhere near as strong as he used to be. Maybe he wants to get stronger. He might have a more prominent role now as well. We can't say for sure. But Garou is shaping up to be one of my favorite characters within the series. He's kind of like the antithesis of Saitama almost. Everything he does is the opposite. Instead of having to work really hard, he's very talented. He's like this villain because he doesn't like heroes pretty much. He's a more technical fighter than he is a strong fighter. Well, at least in his base form. He hates the way that the world is and he wants to change it. Whereas Saitama doesn't. He's fine with the world and he wants to be a part of it, but feels so disconnected because he's so different. Whereas Garou cares about everything, Saitama doesn't really care about much. So yeah, I just love their dynamic. Hopefully Garou stays longer in the story and isn't thrown away to the side like Piccolo was in Dragon Ball. Although Piccolo did get a prominent role in the most recent Dragon Ball movie. Anyway, if you enjoyed this video, I will make more One Punch Man videos in the future. It is a series I've come to enjoy now, and I do want to cover it. Maybe on a chapter to chapter basis, covering both the manga and the anime. The anime on a weekly basis if it does eventually come out. But obviously that's up to you. If you show support for this kind of stuff, let me know. Like the video, subscribe, comment down below what you do want to see. If you do show support for it, I'll make more content about it. It's as simple as that. So just voice your opinion. Thank you for making it to the end of this video. Check out my other videos. Their links right here. And I'll see you later. Peace.